I'm Exothermic, and I play Assault and Heavies for Steel Jaguar EU.
Hi, I'm Harry78. I'm the drop commander for the EU team of Steel Jaguars, and I'm an officer in Steel Jaguar.
This is Frostpin Dragon. I'm a primary light and assault pilot for SJR.
This is the 540-ton drop deck in RHOD's lightest drop deck, and we'd run I think it's almost exactly the same way in Last Mech Standing previously, and this was something that we'd come up with for that, which is literally only two types of mechs in there. There's the Centurion A's and the Jenner F's. And the reason we took that was if you take anything heavier than a medium, it just gets focused first, and it's a waste of tonnage, because it just loses its firepower straight away. The Cent A's are so good at taking down heavies, and they're so fast that they can get on their target before it gets to put out any damage. This was something we formulated in there, and it worked really well for us.
Do you think the drop deck has any influence on the map? I mean, is it weak on any particular map? I mean, we've dropped on Terra Firma, which is a particularly hot map, but is it more suited to Alpine?
This kind of drop deck really want to have a brawling situation where there's not too much terrain. You do want some kind of cover that you can dodge into with the Sense and fast mechs. That's the advantage of them, that they can just shoot off and break the lock from the enemy if they're getting shot at. But Terra Firma, it's a funny map because we'd only really played this drop deck in Last Mech Standing with this weight where there wasn't any capping. And in Run Hot or Die, every drop deck can be capped. So this was the first time we played this drop deck with capping.
We want to generate a brawl with this drop deck, but we also have to be quite wary of what's going on with the base. So we're quite reliant on the scouts to make sure that we're not being outmaneuvered. With that in mind, how do you deploy the scouts?
Terra Firma is a really big map. It's something like the size of Alpine, but with Alpine you can get scouting that covers almost the entire map, whereas this Terra Firma is just full of lanes and you don't know whether people have got past you. So you need to spread your scouts out and be really sure that something hasn't got past you if you're going to push over to the other side of the map.
Also, if you go down the 9 line, I'm going to go up to G7.
So to get talking about Antares Scorpion's likely builds, do we have a good inkling of what they're likely to be doing, or is it again a case where we trust in our own drop deck to be able to counter anything that they have bought?
Well, they did win the LMS championships, and this was one of the drops that won them that. So, and I remember in that drop that they brought a good mix of Hunchbacks, Centurions, Lights, and Cicadas, and they had the perfect counters ready. So they do run a varied drop deck, and we know they like to brawl and that they're good at this, so we knew it was going to be a good challenge from the start.
We faced Hunchbacks with lasers before in this drop deck in LMS, haven't we? And AC-20 mechs and all that sort of stuff. So we feel particularly threatened, especially on this hot map. If they do have 4Ps or 4SPs, are we still going to look to generate that brawl?
We're definitely looking to generate a brawl in close range where we can get all our Sents running around them so that they can't focus a target down with any kind of and of course Terra Firma has got large open areas, so we have got to be careful because we have seen other teams take some form of range mech in this.
Who's that on the right hand side?
Me, Icebank.
Okay, get ready to come towards us, mate. Start moving up.
Keep your eyes open.
Got contacts, Delta 5, Delta 6, to the lights.
Okay, get out of there. We're going to cap. Their lights are moving back.
At this point, we're thinking, let's pressure the cap, because pressuring the cap like this, when they're not close to it themselves, usually allows you to get a few of their mechs approaching you at a time, and that really gives you an advantage.
I was set in a position, I'm still trying to screen our forces. Harry's given the call to move along that far left flank, and one of their spiders comes up, and it was a split decision. Do I try and fight him off and chase him off, or do I risk all of us getting discovered and the cap be occupied and waiting for our element? So I shoot him once, and he kind of turns, so I go to pursue because I want him to really run away. But we hadn't found their main body yet, and as soon as I came around the corner, they had a line set up, they knew I was coming, and I took bad hits.
Frost.
Yeah, I'm getting pursued. I'm gonna go down.
Take them
Alright.
away from base. Take them away from cap. Okay.
F3.
You mentioned that you've made a split-second decision to attack that spider. Is that the sort of decision that is going to play into your mind in future matches? So it's something that you're not going to risk, or is it part of your incremental improvement?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that spider pilot tried the exact same thing in another match, and I said, nope, not this time.
So we're going to try and cap it here, but as soon as they get mixed back to stop the cap, we just need to take them down. We need to ignore the fact that we're capping and just start spreading out and hitting mechs. But what they do here, the lights, is they're just running right in between us. So to be able to hit them is pretty hard, and there's probably a certain amount of friendly fire going on here. So it's not that much of an advantage. That this is where the other mechs start coming in. They've got they've got yellows, they've got hunchbacks. They all start coming in exactly how we wanted it, like in drips and drabs. But with so many mechs around, I'm not sure that we had that much of an advantage shooting at them like this.
Delta legs.
I finished the gen. Now get the Centurions.
Roger. Finish his legs.
Lights on alpha legs after your all target's done.
Good job. Right, next ascent. Oh, Juliet, hunchback the target.
Lights.
Oh, I can hear the called targets going on, and for the most part I'm hitting the targets on this particular video. But do you think there's an issue with our focus fire at all? Are mechs going down as quickly as we thought they would?
Nice.
I think with that drop deck, focus fire is always a problem. People are too fast, there's too much moving around. Even the target itself is going to be not being... You can't shoot on it as much as you'd like to, because there's other mechs, including friendlies, just getting in the way all the time. Focus is definitely a problem.
Foxtrot host, hunchback guys.
Left leg on that. Both legs. Right leg.
Another notice, they got ECM on the field right there during that brawl, and that does inhibit your ability to find those targets quickly.
Hunchback.
Hotel, right arm. Take his AC-20 off now.
Foxtrot's right torso's open. Hunchback.
Nice. That's it.
Roger.
Take his arm. You switch to that hunchback.
We will. Arms taken care of.
When you're piloting different mechs, different drop decks, you really have to be hot on heat management in all these different mechs that you might not play a lot of the time, and with Terra Firma being such a hot map, you're going to see a lot of pilots shutting down, and that's the death of them. So the best pilots are ones that can pick up a mech that they haven't been playing today, and they can not overheat in a situation like that. But even the best pilots end up shutting down at times.
One shot on Bravo 6. Oh, it's to the left.
So you're now looking at their drop deck and looking at ours. This wasn't actually what we would call a close match, was it? Really, this is them taking a very strong win over us with this drop deck that we've used before. And now, when you look at our drop deck and you look at theirs, is this something that we would then have to adapt for the future, or do you think it was less a drop deck issue and more of a tactical or players' error in the fight?
We've definitely revised how we use this drop deck since this game and since another game. We've noticed that a lot of teams are taking mechs that really counter mediums. Where our drop deck was really strong in last mech standing was that it just took down heavies really quickly. It's taken down a lot of their firepower before it even gets to do any of that firepower. But when you're taking all mediums, if your opponent is taking a lot of laser mechs, so that he can hit fast targets nicely and take out the legs of scents quickly, that's an ideal drop deck to take out something like what we took, and that's something that Antares Scorpions have clearly got there in their drop deck.
They were able to keep some key mechs up and in the fight, especially that yellow Wang. Ovenrood was piloting. We weren't able to knock his AC-20 off, and he was able to do massive damage, AC-20 shots to legs throughout the game.
I'm sorry to ask it, Frost, now, but having played this drop deck several times against some very strong or evenly matched opponents at this weight, it quite often comes down to the light fight for us. So whilst Frost was lost pretty early, do you feel that that actually had a very large impact on this fight, or do you think even if he'd been up it would have been too late?
If I would have remained alive from the beginning, if you look at the average damage output, mine's 21. All the other Jenner pilots are 238 and above. If you look at Antares Scorpion's damage output, that could have swung the match. Reason being, if I would have knocked off a hunchback hunch, that Yenlo's arm, or legged another cent early, something like that, it could have very easily tipped the scale. So I definitely take responsibility for my early death, and I've definitely learned from my mistakes.
We don't often talk about this sort of thing, but if you're in a pug, obviously the damage sort of numbers is something you always look at. But in team play, in 12-mans, quite often the damage is a lot lower. So when we've come to a situation like this and we're looking at the end score screen and we have lost, do we take much notice of the damage?
Personally, when I look at the damage numbers, usually in a fight like this, it just shows me who lasted the longest. It doesn't really show me who played the best. One thing that I'd say that is really interesting on that scoreboard is how much damage the Spider's done compared to the Jenners. The Spider's really done well there. When you consider the weapon loadout you can put on a Spider, and I think that's largely down to the map, because with Terra Firma, your DPS is entirely limited by heat sinks, and so the Spider there has probably got similar heat sinks to the Jenners, and is able to put out almost as much DPS as the Jenners.
Yeah, he was there from the beginning to the end, and he was just gnawing at Scent's legs the entire time, setting off ammo explosions and doing a really good job at killing people.
On our mechs, obviously all of them have ammunition, which just by the nature of the mech, some of it has to be in the legs at least, and they've only got 4 mechs with ammunition potentially in the legs. So do you think that that was a weakness for us in this situation, or do you still think that if we'd been given a different scenario, we could have beaten that drop deck?
An ideal situation would have been catching them flat-footed, all of our mechs being cool and being able to unleash initial volleys of SRMs into hunchbacks. Probably would have put them down or neutralized them early, and would have swung the battle in our favor for sure.
Yeah, on the day, they took a drop deck that is strong for taking down our drop deck, and our drop deck isn't ideal for taking down what the mechs they brought. But at the same time, when you look at how the brawl went, Antares Scorpions handled it really well, and SJR they didn't respond well from the moment we were capping to the moment we got attacked. We didn't respond well to that. We didn't act like a cohesive brawling unit, and you can tell by how quickly our mechs dropped compared to theirs.
Now the next drop actually is not in this video. We drop again on Terra Firma at 620 tons, and it's a draw. So with that being said, having lost the last match, does that make you more cautious?
Made me more cautious.
Well, funny enough, the next drop was Terra Firma again, but this time a little bit heavier. So what ends up happening on Terra Firma is that neither side wants to push over, because it's so easy to slip past and lose the cap on that map, that what ends up happening is both sides are probing, trying to use their scouts to find out where they're at, but neither side is confident enough to push over and feel like they can defend their base, because we're not aware if they've got 6 mechs hidden ready to take our cap as soon as we push over. So it ends up in a draw. That's one of the things I don't like about Terra Firma, how matches can go.